is Paul Rubin. I'm a professor of economics at Emory University, and my paper was Markets, Regulation, and Tort Laws, Methods of Controlling Safety. My main starting point was that markets will often provide the right amount of safety. We don't necessarily see markets operating because they work in subtle ways, but that unless there's third-party effects or information failure, markets will provide the amount of safety that people want, and markets have a long record of providing safety. Products are getting safer, accidental death rates are falling as people become richer and prefer more safety. So markets work in many cases. They don't always work in third-party effects, and that's where, for example, in automobile accidents, tort law can serve a useful function. Regulation in the form of traffic laws can serve a useful function because people would otherwise not be optimally safe in driving, both with respect to collisions and with respect to cyclists. Regulation has a tendency to overreach. The best example is the FDA, which overregulates in the sense that all the evidence shows that more people are harmed by lack of drugs than would be harmed by unsafe drugs under any reasonable situation. Tort law in the case of product liability and medical malpractice has a similar effect. It makes goods and services more expensive, and people may buy fewer risk-reducing goods and services. This comes out best in the case of what's called preemption in drugs, where the Supreme Court has just ruled that just because a drug is approved by the FDA, that does not exempt the drug from lawsuits in state court under dealing with the same issues the FDA has regulated. So now we have a regime where drugs are regulated both by the FDA, which is overly restrictive, and by state courts, which are also overly restrictive, and so the effect is going to be quite harmful. The discussion was interesting. One interesting implication was the gentleman from Ford Motor Company has a lot of evidence that we're going to share on the way markets have improved the safety of cars, and his claim was that markets greatly outrun regulation, that Ford is continually making their cars safer because consumers want safer cars and that they have ways of doing it, and that the NHTSA is a relatively minor player in the safety decision of Ford.